The catastrophic education fail? Hey, I'm Sarah from mostmotion, and I'm here with another episode of How to Hack Injuries for every sports and fitness coach who wants to be able to help their people with existing injury problems but doesn't know where to start, or you just don't want to get dragged into the idea of specialty. So, what is the catastrophic education fail? Well, it is basically that the industry is focusing on the injuries themselves, but that's not the real issue. The real issue isn't the injury, it's the people that are involved in the situation. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a therapist, for example. There's different types of therapists. There's therapists in the NHS who are doing junior rotations who might not actually want to be involved in musculoskeletal injuries at all. So if your people are seeing that kind of physio, then they're not going to get anything above the basic help that the NHS can provide. You might have your people going to see a private physio who isn't actually very interested in late stage rehabilitation. They're just interested in the detail of the injury itself and what they can do on the table. In which case, your people might get a sheet of exercises to follow at home that are just standard for everybody. And then, of course, you might get the physios who are also in private practice who really love the late stage rehabilitation and really interested in that kind of thing. So there's a big spectrum, there's a big, wide diversity between the types of therapists that your people might be seeing, if they're seeing anybody at all. And of course, then you've got the people who are your clients, are your members, your group session members as well. And they have different varying abilities and interests too. So you might have somebody who is super keen on getting rid of their injury and do everything that they're told to do from the physio. But if they're seeing a physio is not really telling them much, then that's not very helpful. But you might also get people who really don't want to help themselves. They just, they're in denial that the injury is actually happening in the first place because they don't want to mention it. They don't want to focus on their problems. They don't want to stop training. And then you've got other people who might have had this problem for a lot of years, in which case they're very tired of people trying to help them and trying to tell them what to do because they feel like they've tried everything and nothing has really worked. And of course, then there's you. There's you as the coach. You might want to specialize, you might not want to specialize. So it's a whole big complex mess of stuff and people that are involved in the injury process. So if you've got a lot of different types of people, then the idea of helping each other kind of comes together. But the industry courses available at the moment are developed by therapists who are trying to help or trying to get help from coaches that they want, which means that it's teaching coaches little bits of therapy because that's who has developed the course. They are teaching people hands-on treatment assessment methods. They are teaching them little bits that they can do in terms of the injuries themselves. But again, the focus is the injury itself rather than the coaches who are trying to help the therapist. And this creates a whole lot of confusion on top of the complexity of the people that are involved. You've got the confusion between clients not really understanding who knows what, and it forces coaches down the specialism route that they might not want to take. And when you think about the number of coaches that are available in the industry, UK Coaching did a survey in 2017 that said there was 3 million active coaches in the UK, and half of those didn't have any formal fitness education qualifications. So you've got a lot of you are 1.5 million coaches in the UK in 2017, it's probably more than that now, who don't have any fitness qualifications. But the specialism for injury qualification, you have to have a fitness qualification first, which means you have to go and pay to be a personal trainer if you want to specialize in injuries, which is going to put a lot of people off because it's expensive. It's doing something they don't want to do in the first place. They just want to focus on their sport or whatever it is that they want to do. They just want to help people. So the majority of coaches don't want to specialize. And the majority of therapists don't actually want to focus on the late stage rehabilitation. They don't want to focus on the exercises as well. So we've got the majority of people involved in an injury situation who don't actually want to do what's available to them in the industry. So it's no wonder that injuries seem inevitable and healthcare systems are totally overwhelmed. But the real problem comes from the way that we approach injuries in the first place. So we basically look, first of all, for a diagnosis. So we're looking for a definition of the problem. We're looking for a diagnosis, a name, a symptom that we can, a bunch of symptoms that we can describe in a certain way. And then we treat the symptoms. And that works really well in the medical profession and the healthcare systems because there's lots of different people involved in the treatment of that person. So it's really important that we have very clear information being passed from one person to the next so there's no confusion, especially when it comes to surgery, which is the end of the road. You don't want a surgeon operating on the wrong leg. So it's really important for the medical professionals to do that. But as coaches, it's not our responsibility to deal with that pain. We can't diagnose, we can't treat anything. And the medical profession often see that as a bad thing. But actually, coaches are in a really great position to do everything other than doing that. And a passage that kind of really brought it home to me was in the Cesar Millan's book, The Dog Whisperer. His book was called Caesar's Way. And he said you can't rehabilitate dogs by basically using the name on the dish. So talking about the likes and dislikes of that dog. You have to deal with the fact that they are an animal first and treat all of the issues that that animal requires. Then deal with the fact that they are a dog and deal with the fact that all dogs do certain things or have, need certain things. And then deal with the fact that they are a certain type of dog. So they're a breed of dog that behaves in certain ways. And then deal with the likes and dislikes. Like I've got a terrier, she loves chasing everything, but she doesn't dig. She just prefers to chase stuff. So if we look at the injury industry, we're actually doing it the wrong way round because we're trying to give it a name first and then work backwards. But coaches are in a perfect position to deal with everything that human beings need in terms of movement. Okay, movement is part of our DNA. It's what every living organism needs to survive. So if we look at movement, we take movement as a most important thing, and we look at how the human body is built. So we look at the joints that are involved. All we need to do as coaches is look at non-painful joint movement, try and improve that and focus on that because that is what every single coach in the sports and fitness industry deals with. Then we can layer on which sport we're dealing with. Then we can deal with the individual personalities of our people as well. But if we focus on what our human beings need first in terms of movement, then we are likely to be able to help with the situation because it's my experience that pain is just painful movement. So if we focus on non-painful movement, we increase the amount of joint movement that we can get in our people, then that way we can focus on the things that we're really good at without disrupting, without getting in the way of, without treading on anybody's toes in terms of the treatment of the pain. We can leave that to the professionals. That's what they're there for. But we can absolutely help if we look at it in a completely different way. So these painful movement is amplified by physical stress, which is a restriction of movement. Okay. If we add into that emotional stress as well, then that's amplifying the amount of pain. If you have a low level ache or pain and you have a stressful life, then that pain is likely to be worse, So if we can reduce emotional and physical stress, then we can take away a lot of the reasons why that pain is happening in the first place without actually ever dealing with the problem. So are there signs of physical and emotional stress? Absolutely. They are in people who stand with their arms crossed all the time. They're in how people stand. They're how people sit with one leg crossed over the other. All these little signs are something that we can do as coaches to absolutely help with the injury situation. Do coaches need to be specialists to see these signs? Absolutely not. Can every coach do this? Totally. Yes. Does this help therapists? Absolutely. Why? Because it helps identify problems before they start to become painful, because these signs and symptoms are there, these behaviors, these postures are there, whether there is pain or not. So if we can identify things early, that helps a therapist get on top of the problem before it starts to become painful, which is great for everybody. Does this help our coaching? Yes, because it's easier to tailor and adapt our sessions once we've seen what the problems actually are. And of course, this helps our individual people as well because they don't have to mention the fact that they're having problems. Nobody likes focusing on the problems. People are very reluctant to tell you they're having pain if it means that they have to stop training. So, I can show you how to do all of this. The exact steps are in my book, Unlocking Fitness. You can get it on unlockingfitness.com. I will explain the exact steps, the exact strategies that you can use as a coach to be able to help with this situation. And you will find an offer for the training course as well, which will give you a qualification to be able to do this, which is industry approved. So go to unlockingfitness.com, grab your copy of the book, get the training as well, and let's get this ball rolling with helping people with injuries without having to specialize. Thanks for listening. I'm Sarah from Most Motion. I'll see you again next time.